Good morning, YouTube, and welcome to the Reptile Barn. I want to discuss something real briefly with you in this vlog. We at the Reptile Barn have made vlogs before discussing why it's okay to make money with reptiles, right? Or with animals in general. Why we would argue that you're not some sort of horrible animal abusing monster if you try and make money with your reptiles. Okay, kind of in defense of the business side of things. Now, while we 100% stand behind those vlogs we made, and that is our opinion, I do want to discuss the opposite extreme. People that only want to make money with their reptiles. That's their only aim, right? So this scenario has played out thousands of times, okay? Somebody who is not involved in the reptile hobby. They've never owned a reptile, okay? They don't even care that much to own a reptile. They know somebody who is into reptiles, and through that mutual acquaintance, they realize that there are super expensive reptiles, okay? Generally, they come across a morphed out ball python or something like that. And they're like, holy cow, that's so expensive. I could do that and I could make a bunch of money. So that's not usually a good thing, right? One of two things is going to happen. Because their thinking is just, oh, this animal equals cha-ching, right? It just equals money. There's really only a few scenarios that can play out from this point, right? Somebody who knows nothing, they don't care that much about the animals themselves, they just want the money, right? One, maybe they just won't take good care of them because they don't care about them. Right there's an ethical issue. They're neglecting their animal and the care that it actually needs. That's a problem, right? So we can just end that story right there. They shouldn't be doing that. However, maybe they do so much research that they realize you're not likely to have good success, including financial success, if you don't take good care of your animals. A happy, calm, well-nourished, well-socialized animal in captivity is so much more likely to produce for you, right? So maybe they do take good care of their animal, right? Well, generally, their thinking is, oh, I pair up these animals, they pop out these super expensive babies, and I sell them, and I just quintupled my financial investment, right off the bat. Well, that's not really how it works. Generally speaking, the highest quality animals that you can find are going to be babies, right? People hold on to their adults if they're high quality breeder animals. That's not always the case. You can, if you search long and hard enough, you can find really good adults to buy. So let's pretend that they do. They don't care enough about raising up the animal. They want their money now. So they buy adults, right? Well, unless they do everything perfectly, they very likely aren't even going to be able to get their animals to breed in the first place. If they do, very likely the female won't lay eggs. If she does, there's a good chance that if they don't do everything right, she could slug out, or the eggs themselves might go bad during incubation. If they don't, they hatch out. So far, so good, right? There's all these issues that they didn't really think about, but we're to the point they have live babies, right? Well, they haven't been invested in the hobby. So if they picked a ball python with all these morphs, they don't know how to ID their babies. They don't know how to sell them. They don't know where to go to sell their animals. So they are stuck with, 6, 7, 8 babies. They don't know how to sell them. They don't know what they are, so they don't know what they're worth. They reach out for help. Hopefully they get it. Now they have to do the work to sell the animal, and they realize all that work I just did to produce these animals often isn't even as much work as it takes to sell these animals, right? You're a nobody. No one knows you. So then they are getting frustrated at this point, right? If they bought them as babies, they're like 3 or 4 years in at this point, and they've never made a penny off their investment, right? If they bought them as adults, they're still at least 1 year in that they've been feeding and cleaning and feeding and cleaning and feeding and cleaning all the time, right? They finally have these babies. They're tired of it because this wasn't really their passion or their hobby. They just wanted money. So they want to sell these animals as fast as possible, but you can't get top dollar when you just sell them as fast as possible to any random person who wants them, right? There's so much work involved, is all I'm saying, that it tends to weed these people out. Uh, you know, people, if you look at the pros, the people who are doing this full time, where it's their only income, virtually 100% of them, whether you agree with all their practices or not, virtually every last one of them really, really is passionate about reptiles, okay? Maybe they do stuff wrong in whatever it is, animal husbandry wise that people hate on them for. Or maybe they have bad business practices or whatever. But at the very least, if they are successfully breeding reptiles for more than a year or two, if they're, long-term success as a breeder professionally, they like reptiles. That's just a given. It's a passion for them, right? And this person who came in and they're only passionate about money and not reptiles, the work involved in the reptiles is going to weed them out. So I hate computers and technology. I hate them, right? If someone told me, hey, there's this step-by-step process you can take, and if you do this every single day on a computer for 4 years, you'll make a ton of money. I couldn't do it. I know I couldn't do it. I wouldn't even start because I know myself. But if I did start, I would fail. I would drop out because that's not my passion at all. In fact, it's my anti-passion. I hate it, right? It's the same thing. Who wants to get home from a long day's work and be like, oh, I still have to clean animals for an hour and a half. And then on Friday, I have to feed them, and it's going to take like 4 hours to feed them. This is a pain in the butt. That's how some people feel about these animals, that we are happily taking care of. We love going through them and feeding them and checking them over, socializing them so that they're nice, happy, calm pets. Cleaning every day, scraping pee off the side of the tub and spraying things down, you know what I mean? Ordering things from all around the country to give our animals the best that we can, and then working with people extensively because selling them is hard work. You have to be constantly putting yourself out there and networking and on social media and just on and on and on and on in order to be able to sell your animals at a good price and make any profit. So aside from the ethical issues of people who don't take good care of their animals, because that right there, that's the end of that conversation. They're just wrong and something needs to stop them, right? But people who are taking good care of their animals, but are still only doing it for the money, generally the hobby is just going to either infect them with the passion, because that does happen. Sometimes people hatch out their first snakes and they're like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. When new life comes into the world, not everybody, but some people, that just affects them deeply. And they get that bug to do it more, And then all of a sudden, if they missed their odds, maybe everything came out het and there's no visuals or whatever the case may be, they're okay with it. Because there's these beautiful new snakes in the world that they get to then get them feeding and their first shed, and then they're going to hopefully place them in a new home where the people will send them a picture of their tank and it's being spoiled, and you did that. That infects people. And so sometimes this story ends happily. They got into it because they thought they were going to make a quick buck. They didn't make a quick buck, but they had success with the breeding part of it, and so it was worth it to them, and then they become more of a hobbyist, a passionate person. And maybe they still turn it into a great business and they make money down the road. But in this case, it ended well. But in the other case where they don't get, that joy from it, they're going to quit at some point. And usually it's sooner rather than later. Very often it's before they ever even produce their first babies. Think about that. Some of these people are coming in and they're buying $2,000-$3,000 animals, right? Then they're buying the thermostats and the tanks and the bedding and the food. When they get through their first year, they're $8,000 into this and hundreds of hours of labor. They don't have a penny to show for it. And then their female doesn't go that year. She just reabsorbs her follicles, and you're stuck waiting a whole nother year, and people are like, nope, that's it, I'm done. I'm out of here. and they sell off what they've got, and they're frustrated how hard it is to even sell those, even though they're nice animals that they paid top dollar for, but they've depreciated in the last year, and they're just angry and upset, and they're like, the ball python market's crashing, it sucks. Well, no, you suck. Like, I mean, really, that sounds terrible, but that's just how it is. If the joy of doing it is not an intrinsic motivator for you to keep doing it, the money probably isn't going to flow quickly enough to keep you invested. It's just not. Because the emotional toll of laboring in the middle of the night to keep things fed and cleaned for years on end, if you don't love it, you're just going to stop. And so this is kind of a warning to people. There's no law that says you can't jump into reptiles if your only motivation is money. Now, socially speaking, you are going to take serious flack for that. I wish people were nicer, but that's just how it is. If you then go on and neglect or abuse your animals because all you care about is the money, you're going to get shredded. And you should, because you're a terrible person. But my wife's laughing behind the camera. But it's true. Come on. I don't care if it's just a reptile. They feel pain. They feel fear. They feel neglect. It affects them. They're prone to obesity. There's all sorts of problems. These are animals with a wide range of needs, not to the emotional depth of a dog, for example. But certainly it is not. It's not a plant, right? It's going to have needs that you have to meet if you decide to get one. And if you bring 7 more of them into the world, you have to make sure the needs for all 7 of those are met. And, this is, we're segueing into something that I think is a topic for a video all on its own, but I do want to mention this. People generally will sell to the first buyer. They have their price. The first person who offers that price, they've sold it. It's gone. The animal's gone. That saddens me. Not everyone is that way. I know for a fact some people are more discerning breeders than that. And I'm glad for that. But many people, that's just the case. They're like, well, of course, someone offered me to buy this thing that's for sale, and I sold it to them. Have some conversations with people. And I'm not promoting. One time, we went to buy a dog, and this woman had like a 38-page packet she wanted us to fill out. It was insane. It wasn't just, is this dog going to get enough exercise? How long is it going to be stuck in a kennel all day kind of thing if you're at work? Like what? Those are good questions. I'm okay with that from a breeder. I want the breeders to, respect their own animals and hope for a good home for them. But she was literally like, what is your contingency plan for when you need to go to the bathroom? Who's going to care for your dog during those 72 seconds that you're in the bathroom? Does it get to come in with you so it doesn't get lonely? And I was like, oh dear goodness alive. Lady, you crazy, right? And it was literally like 38 pages of this, on and on and on and on. And I was mind blown. That's too much. All things in moderation, right? But I do appreciate the sentiment of I would like my animals to go to a good home where it's going to get taken care of. I don't mind selling to someone who was ignorant of how to take care of them, as long as they learned before they took my animal home. If they come to me and ask me, what do ball pythons eat? I want one. Well, let's back up a ways. Do you have an enclosure? Do you know what a thermal gradient is? Do you have the means to measure the thermal gradient? Do you know what substrates do and do not work for ball pythons? Do you know the dangers of feeding live? Do you know the dangers of feeding frozen thawed? Really, you gotta have these conversations, because there are and have been and will be people who get their ball python home. Their experience with reptiles was like a gecko, and they're going to throw crickets in with their ball python. And then they're going to be like going on Facebook trashing the breeder, saying, this ball python doesn't eat. This breeder must not have taught it to eat before they sold it to me. They suck. You're throwing crickets in with your ball python. There's some real ignorance problems going on here that should have been dealt with before you got your snake, right? So some of that is the breeder's responsibility. Of course, a person buying the animal has the most responsibility to take good care of it. It's their creature now. But the breeder, if you honestly, genuinely care about the snake, you should have asked a few questions, or at least conversed with them enough to know, is this a total newbie to the hobby? Do I need to have these conversations? Or does this person clearly know what they're talking about? You know, they've had snakes before. They were telling me about all these YouTubers that they follow that are reptile people. They're telling me about all the shows they've been to and the snakes they grew up with. And, well, obviously, this person, you don't need to vet them quite as much as somebody who's like, you know, can my ball python eat crickets? No, it can't eat crickets, okay? And that doesn't make you a bad person if you just didn't know, but you need to learn before you get the snake. And some of that, at least a piece of that, is on the breeder, right? So that's all I wanted to get into. I like talking about the motivations in this hobby. It's one of my favorite things to talk about with people, and so I hope it doesn't bore you guys. We do have a couple of really animal-centric videos coming up, a couple more educational videos coming up, but this has just been on my mind. I was talking to a friend of mine about this, so I wanted to make a video about it. I feel very strongly that while it is not only acceptable, it's actually very, very, very good to want to make money with reptiles. That cannot be your only motivation if you want to do it successfully long term. And it's safer for the animals if you have a passion for the animals, right? You're just going to take better care of things if you love them, if you want their well-being is kind of high up on your priority list, right? Anyway, that is all for now. I brought out this little girl kind of as an example of what I was talking about. We have worked on producing this exact snake for like 3 years now. She's not worth very much money. She really, really isn't. This is a citrus ghost. Nobody works with that gene. It's not super valuable. We think it's gorgeous, and that's why we did it. We thought she was the original female that we saw was beautiful. Sorry, little girl. And so we bought her. We bred something else to her, produced some hets, raised the hets up, bred them again, and produced this one single visual citrus ghost that we're absolutely in love with. Her name is Belle. The kids named her. I've showed her on the vlog, I think, a couple times now, but we're just obsessed with this snake. I think she's incredible. She's eating like a total pig. And is she gonna launch our business into financial superstardom? No, she's not. But we don't care because we didn't breed her to make money off of her, right? We want to make money. We really want to make money. We have a big family. We want to move out and get bigger space. We want to expand ourselves financially, certainly. And we want to use our business to do that. But is that why we make all of our decisions, or even most of our decisions? No. In fact, we probably should make more of our decisions based off of finances, but we don't. And that's okay. We're happy. We are incredibly happy with our reptile collection. So, and that's the way it should be. You know, makes the choices that you need to make based off of finances, make them. And don't sit there regretting it. But the choices that you make for the passion of it are the ones that you're going to look back on and be so happy you did that. You know, you cash out and you produce a clutch of snakes and you're selling each baby for $3,000 and you're just like, yeah, I just made $18,000 off one clutch. We haven't done that, but you know, there's people that do. Yeah, you're going to remember that. You're going to be excited about that. But when you produce an animal for the first time that maybe no one else has ever produced, or they're super difficult to produce, it's been your dream for decades. Some of these people, it takes them forever to make these animals, and they finally get it. They're going to remember that way more. That is all, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments about this. We try and really be moderate in our opinions in the reptile world. We don't tend to go to the extremes. And so, you know, sometimes that angers the people who are on the extremes, but really we're not, and we're not trying to avoid confrontation by not having any real opinions. We certainly have our opinions. We want everyone to feel like they can comment and, you know, communicate with us, and we're not going to just shoot them down, right? So anytime you have a comment, even if you don't agree with us, please feel safe in commenting, and we will go back and forth happily. We can talk about snakes forever. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we're the Reptile Barn.